What did you gain from the conference? What do you think some of the key points to focus on will be?
I think for me, the key thing was that, we South Africans think, wow, miracle, rainbow nation, it was fantastic, 1994. And there's a certain exceptionalism to the way we view ourselves, that we are these champions of democracy and so forth. So what was key was taking the case of Brazil, taking the case of India, and seeing just how similar we are, despite the differences in size, the differences in the trajectory of the democracy itself, but just how much we can learn from India, from Brazil, and from other jurisdictions. I think it's sobering to realize that actually we do face problems that are surmountable, and that this kind of, oh, but apartheid was this and so forth, is no excuse for us not to do the things that we need to do. I think what was underlined for me was the key challenge of growing this economy, making sure that unemployment doesn't stick around at 35% of the working population. And so that other people have turned their economies around, and that we can, and that we have a great opportunity to do so.
In terms of politics, where do you think the future lies in South Africa? Do you think we need to focus on the traditional democratic concept, or do you think we need to develop something a little bit more individual?
I think we've got a good thing going. Democracy is a tough thing. You get a lot of noise, you get a lot of challenges. It's not like an authoritarian state somewhere where, I'm the big man and I say this is the way forward and everyone falls in line and we all do it. Democracy demands innovation, demands people to think a little bit harder. And so a lot of people in South Africa today might think, oh, we need to start thinking like the Chinese or the Singaporeans and so forth. I don't think that's the route we should take. I think we should perfect what we've got. We should allow this democracy to grow and breathe and consolidate. And what will happen is that in that milieu, in that melting pot, leaders who stand for growth, for an economy that is inclusive, that brings in formerly disadvantaged people into that middle bit, into that center. Those leaders will emerge and they'll make a case for themselves. And people are not stupid. I believe that people will follow the right policies and will vote for them. I think people who fear that uneducated people will follow the Julius Malemas or some other populists of this world, I don't think that's the way people really are fundamentally.
How important is it to strengthen our ties with other developing southern countries?
I think it's absolutely key. I think we should learn from them. We're 20 years old. Many other democracies on this continent are much older. They've gone through a lot of the challenges that we are going through now. We don't have to make the same mistakes. We don't have to go to do what Zimbabwe did to learn what Zimbabwe has learned. We don't have to do what the Nigerians did to learn from what they have now learned. We can just take those learnings, interact with them, and use them to grow what we've got. And as I've said, we've got a good thing. So this cross-pollination of ideas is absolutely key. But it mustn't hold us back. We mustn't be held back by history, by our past. We need to say, these are the choices we're making. This is where we need to go, and we are going that way.
How do you think the current relationship is between government, local business, civil society?
I was struck by the panel discussion. I thought that it showed the deep divisions that exist between business and government in particular. I think that despite 20 years of power, I think the ANC still views business as an extension of the apartheid regime and still views it with a huge amount of suspicion. Despite the fact that we now have billionaires like Cyril Ramaphosa, who's now in cabinet, who's now the deputy president, people like Tokyo Sehwale, who has been in the Zuma administration in the past. We have grown hundreds, maybe thousands of black millionaires. Business is still viewed as an enemy. And I think business as well still believes that government is incompetent, corrupt, stands in the way of business. And my view is that we need a very deep, serious conversation, no holds barred, in which business leaders talk about their concerns to government, and government comes out and talks about their concerns about business. But I don't think we'll get to a 6% or 5% growth as long as this relationship continues to be as fractious, as inimical as it is at the moment.
Do you think that democracy is working? Do you think that it is going to become a beacon of hope in terms of our past, or do you think that we need to change things fundamentally to get it right?
I think we've done well, but I don't want to dwell on the past. I do think that we face big challenges. I think the assault on the media, the assault on Chapter 9 institutions, I believe that corruption by the political elite, I think all these are warning lights for all of us, and we should all stand up and say something is going on here and it's not healthy. I do believe that we have the ability and the resources in terms of people, voices in the country to say, stop, this is not where we want to go. So I think we in an interesting phase of our democracy. I'm encouraged by the opposing ideas that are around, and I think the more ideas you have, the better your country and your democracy is. But I think we need to be careful about not letting the slide backwards continue. I think the public protector needs protection. I think that the Protection of State Information Bill is, or an act as it is now, that's waiting for signature by the President, is something that would be a marker on our democracy, and it would be a blot, a negative one, if it were to be signed into law by President Zuma. So I'm very positive on the future of South Africa and its democracy, but I do think that there are things that we need to defend, and defend robustly.